personally, I mean, I would rather have seen something like Hellblade 2 take home Game of the Year over Astrobot, just because, like, when you're looking at scale of what these games are as like a game of a year, you know, I don't see Astrobot taking that ever.
I think if it was nominated, it would have won, or it should have won. I played Astrobot. I did love it. Like, I'm an old Sony kid too, so like for me, it was like incredible to have like that tribute. That being said, it was a Game of the Year. Like, I started laughing as soon as they called it out. I'm like, huh. A Sony game wins Game of the Year right after they announce a Sony game. That's funny.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
But no, I think in the Game Awards sense, I think it absolutely had a shot. It was a fresh game. It was an absolutely fresh take on an Indiana Jones game. It was one of the best Xbox exclusives to come out in some time. And I mean,
easily, yeah.
I mean, there's so much to say on it. I'm just proud of Machine Games too for making it. I mean, holy shit, I loved the Wolfenstein games, but this was like, ooh, these guys just hit a new level with their stuff.
It's kind of one of those
incredible.
like those moments. It's kind of like IO Interactive getting, you know, the chance to make a James Bond game, which hopefully turns out amazing. It's like, you know, the whole time, if you would have thought like, who could have made like an Indiana Jones game, and I feel like it would have been Machine Games regardless. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're the only ones that had the pedigree, who, I mean, showed what they could do with Wolfenstein, and of course, obviously, they did stuff like, you know, Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, or a large portion of them once at Starbreeze prior. They also share the same, Butcher Bay and Indiana Jones share the exact same director as well. So both have the same game director.
I consider it a spiritual successor to that, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
there's nothing else that's quite that that similar in like the constant, seamless kind of first to third person transitions, the heavy emphasis on combat, and a lot of first person and third person animation. I mean, there's nothing else quite like that.
Yeah, I pointed out in my video how I was like, it's very similar to Chronicles of Riddick. And the amount of people who were like, this is nothing like Chronicles of Riddick, and I'm like, dude, it's the same team. There's even the exact same, it's the exact same melee counter where like you grab someone's fist and then punch them in the head. Like, Riddick does the exact same move. It's just like a more refined version of what they did in Chronicles of Riddick. And
toned down just a tad on the violence.
Yeah, it's definitely more like accessible, I think, because it's obviously a lot like less sort of gratuitous with stabbing people through the throat and stuff. Yeah, I think I think to go back to what you said before, like, that was AAA wise, that should have been Game of the Year. Like, to compare that, and I had nothing against Astrobot. I only played it for a couple of hours, but I'm like, dude, it's like you're talking about like a throwback platformer versus this massive, you know, Indiana Jones story, which could have served as a fourth film. The story was that much better than all those other crappy things we got.
It really was.
It's the best Indiana Jones thing since Last Crusade by far.
I think people just looked at the gameplay and were like, oh yeah, it's an okay game, but it's like, no, but it's also like a really good Indiana Jones entry when we haven't had one for literally 30 years was when Last Crusade came out.
Yeah.
And the other games we've had have been like okay, like Emperor's Tomb and all those kind of things, but we've never really had like a really solid like, you're Indiana Jones in this game.
Yeah,
like you knock someone out, you get that satisfying like punch sound, and it was
what they used the original sound effects
and the whip
for it.
The whip crack.
I don't think they had the proper. There's like that very iconic like revolver sound in the movies, like the gunshot. I don't think they used that.
I don't think that's
they definitely had that punch sound, which was like, I've been waiting to hear that in an Indiana Jones game for like 30 years, man.
Whip sound, right?
How they put you in the situation though, when you slight spoilers, but when you land in Shanghai and then the soldier comes at you with the sword, and of course you can fight him, but you have the option to pull out. You're like, immediately I was like, yes.
The fact why he didn't shoot him was playing that section wrong, I think, as well.
Ooh, I got something to look forward to then.
Man,
Troy, I just crash landed there, so that'll be a good thing to look forward to.
What was that?
Yeah.
So it just crash landed. I just started on my Xbox to see where I was, and apparently I'm not in the Himalayas anymore, and I don't remember how it happened. I just looked up and I was in Shanghai, and I was like,
do you forget the controls?
A bit of teleportation.
When you haven't played a game for a while and you jump back into it, do you forget the controls for it? I do it all the time, and it's usually in the middle of a boss fight or something, which is when I last gave up.
Rarely.
No, I don't think so.
Rarely.
So that's a Robert problem then.
I think it's only if I'm playing something that's got very distinctly different controls before it that I've been heavily invested in, and my muscle memory is just conditioned to do the easy thing I've been doing. That's the only time I really disconnect.
I
Usually,
think the
I'm
only
really
thing
good
I've been playing prior to starting
mobilizing.
Indiana Jones was Sniper Elite Resistance. And then now I started playing a little bit of Avowed while I'm near the end of Indiana Jones. And ironically enough, like all three of those games have a lot of things that are D-pad related. So when you're playing on console, so a lot of them, it's like Avowed, you use certain magic and stuff like that with the D-pad, and you swap to like everything in your bag with the D-pad in Indiana Jones. So it's like mechanically, it's almost identical with most of the stuff you got to do. Yeah.
I think I'm the only person here that hasn't actually played Indiana Jones myself. My partner played it, and I just dipped in and out to help her out, in parts where she was struggling. Like, spoiler alert, we bludgeoned a blind man to death. So she was really ecstatic when we finally got past that part. But,
yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah. But
Shit
for me, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I know the internet's going to internet, and Robert's going to say he's not a fan of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or the Great Circle, sorry. And just because I'm saying I like apples, it doesn't mean
That
I
first
don't.
statement would have been all right.
Yeah. Just because I'm saying
Dial
I
of
like
Destiny
apples, it
sucked.
doesn't mean I'm saying I hate pears. But I think I'm so entrenched, and this is a segue to the next question, I'm so entrenched in the boomer shooter scene that anything that is not high-speed run and gun feels like it's slow to me. And
Yes.
you need a game like Indiana Jones once in a while where it is very kind of story-based to take you back and make you feel like you are that character going on that odyssey, and you're not just going around blowing people's faces off and stuff. But going on from that statement there,
You can try, but the guns suck. So
Yeah, it's not.
When
it's
you-
not
they
really
barely
a
work.
shooter. Yeah, it's not really
Yeah.
a shooter.
sorry, what
Plus,
were
the
you gonna
game
say?
punishes you if you get guns out. I think someone discovered a thing where if you run around with a gun out the whole time, the AI will like actively shoot you to discourage it. There was like a mechanic there. But if you put your guns away and you're unarmed, they'll run up and punch you. But if you have the gun out, they'll shoot at you from a distance. It's really weird, but they're like subtly trying to like stop you from playing it as a shooter. If
Yeah,
you
now
die
you
in like
mention it, I
2 or
think
3
I-
bullets,
I feel like I
you
have
get
noticed that.
annihilated.
Yeah.
It's a true
Which
it's a
is
true
odd
action
because-
adventure game in that
Yeah,
sense.
truly.
Like,
It's a great
like-
action adventure game. Yeah.
Especially when
Yeah.
you consider Machine Games' pedigree, which is essentially shooters, and that they've discouraged removing that mechanic from it. But how do you, as creators, both of you, approach constructively criticizing a game that you don't actually like? Just like I would struggle to make an Indiana Jones video. What if you're playing a game and you're like, it's not jiving with me? How do you kind of not burn bridges when you're making a video like that? G-Man, let's start with you.
Jeez. Well, let's use Avowed as the classic example then, because I've just covered that and I thought it was dog shit. I think it's about like I
love
I
that.
don't-
again.
in my experience-
I love how direct you are.
I think Kirk will probably agree with me. Like I don't think publishers care if you don't like a game. I think it's more the fact that if you don't like a game and you just sort of heap on it and say, "Oh, this is like the shittest thing," I think that's where they would probably be pretty shitty with you. But if you play it and you're like, "This is not vibing with me," and here's why, then I think Kirk, you probably agree, right? They don't normally have issues with that. Like going to the boomer shooter thing, like the 3D Realms thing, like last year was it with like Kingpin and then was it what's that other
Phantom
one?
Fury.
Fury. What's the shitty sequel they made to that?
Phantom
Shadow or
Fury.
something. Phantom Fury,
uh,
and then there was a third one too. What was the other?
Raven.
Raven was like pretty average.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I got sent review copies for all of that and I think I didn't like them, but I didn't go into them saying, this is the worst thing ever and these games killed my dog and burned my house down. I think that's like where the fine line is.
Right.
And if you're just like constructive in why you don't like it, and maybe present, I don't know, like a difference of an alternative they could have taken to fix something that was bad, I think it's just that simple. Yeah, just not being like, what do they call them, grifters these days? Like one of those people,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much.
100% right. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I was just
No,
going
I'm
to say
done.
there's
That was
so
it.
much hate on the internet that it's important that you don't be a part of it, because of course it affects your reputation and you've got bills to pay, so you don't want to burn bridges.